The first week of the fantasy football playoffs in the books. I pray that you were able to dodge Jerick McKinnon. I pray that you were able to dodge Dalvin Cook. We got a lot to talk about in this video. We are going to go every single game with a quick recap. So I'm going to be as fast as I can with this intro. Go down there, drop a like on this video, leave a comment, letting me know how your week 15 went. And if you want to check out any of these player props, you can, of course, find the link in that comment section in the description of this video. When you sign up for Underdog with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100 and get into drafts with us in the live stream, available in damn near every state. But that should be it. And let's go game by game, starting with the Saturday games. We already talked about this a bit, so we will be brief. Minnesota, Indianapolis. Oh, dear God. Looks like you should never assume that you have the win if Matt Ryan's your starting quarterback. I don't want to blame it on Matt Ryan. Just really funny that arguably the two biggest comebacks in NFL history happened against Matt Ryan. Cousins ending the day with 460 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Dalvin has almost 200 yards. Justin Jefferson dominates. But what's weird is KJ Osborne has a massive day. We'll talk about Osborne in the waiver wire video. Mainly, it's just painful if we were going to be looking at all those best ball leagues that I do not have KJ Osborne in. And going over to the Indianapolis side of things, very weird that the Colts put 30-plus points on the board, but nobody really scores. I mean, at the end of the day, you only have, I believe, a total of 2 snaps from Jonathan Taylor. Taylor goes down at the very beginning of the game, and if you're the Indianapolis Colts, do you have any incentive to bring Jonathan Taylor back in? Hell, Jeff Saturday's not going to be there next year. You're full-blown tanking. You should probably shut Jonathan Taylor down for the season and plan for 2023. Now, going over to the Cleveland game, Deshaun Watson looks like he's still not back. Yeah, Cleveland wins. I mean, you have Baltimore not being able to get anything going. Tyler Huntley looks horrible. They need Lamar Jackson in. Really, the only takeaway that we can have from this game is if we are looking at J.K. Dobbins, the man looks very good. Now, Dobbins comes through with 125 rushing yards in a phenomenal matchup. If you're looking at the underlying usage, however, with these running backs, you have 24 snaps for Dobbins, 24 snaps for Justice Hill, 11 snaps for Gus Edwards. It'd be really nice if Dobbins was just able to get every snap in one of these games. Now, going over to the Miami-Buffalo contest, where every single person all week laughed at me, said, "Oh, Mason, you can't play Jalen Waddle in a blizzard. Haven't you seen it's supposed to snow?" How many times do I talk about it? I don't want to hear about weather until the day of. The weatherman's always wrong, okay? Please, don't be overacting like that. Play your studs. Play guys like Jalen Waddle. Plays guys like Tyreek Hill. Raheem Mostert is someone that we need to look at. And I would say Mostert's probably a must-start running back at this point in any game that you do not have Jeff Wilson in. And going over to Buffalo, the main takeaway is how Josh Allen can get there. Josh Allen can be an elite level quarterback without elevating anybody. Josh Allen had 4 touchdowns. You had one of these going to Dawson Knox, one of them going to Quentin Morris, one of them going to Nyheim Hines, one of them going to James Cook. You had 40 passing attempts from Josh Allen, and you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players logging a reception here. Now, going over to our first Sunday game, going to be looking at the Detroit Lions and the New York Jets, where the Lions look good. Not too much to discuss outside the running back usage, where you had 28 snaps for DeAndre Swift. You had 21 for Jamal Williams. But the thorn in the side of anybody who wants to get excited about Swift, anybody who wants to start Jamal Williams, is Justin Jackson taking 21 snaps. Is Justin Jackson seeing 6 carries? Justin Jackson getting a few targets out of the backfield? What the hell? You have Swift, you have Jamal Williams, and you think this needs to be a 3-man committee? I mean, it would be so much better if they would just use both these guys. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, respectable day, wasn't phenomenal. Jameson Williams, still someone you can't even consider starting, looking at the fact that the man played, I believe, 12 snaps. Now, going over to the Jets side of things, I mean, Zach Wilson, 317 passing yards. If you would have told me before this game kicked off that Zach Wilson would have had 317 passing yards, I would have smacked you up on the face and called you a liar. Like, there's no way in hell I'd assume that was happening. Garrett Wilson comes away with 9 targets. Obviously the dominant player here, 98 receiving yards. Elijah Moore doesn't give much. I mean, Denzel Mims goes down in this game. Obviously, Corey Davis was missing as well. What's interesting is Bam Knight continues to lead this running back backfield in volume. Bam Knight had, 13 carries, But, I mean, he didn't draw a target out of the backfield. And this is now back-to-back weeks where Michael Carter has played ahead of Bam Knight in snaps. I believe we had Bam Knight ranked around the running back 25 this week. I got worried when we saw the underdog prop of having him at 81 total yards. But honestly, we probably should have kept him outside the top 24 guys. Now, going over to Philadelphia, I know Miles Sanders didn't have a great day, but with Philly, it doesn't matter. You still start everyone. We talked about this all week. You don't know if it's going to be a great day passing. You don't know if it's going to be one of those days where Jalen Hurts has 300 passing yards or this offense goes through and runs the ball 50 times for 40 points. This was one of those days where you had Jalen Hurts just throwing the ball over and over and over again. A.J. Brown, 181 yards. Devonta Smith, 126. It could have been an even bigger day if it wasn't for Jalen Hurts having 3 rushing touchdowns and not really dispersing these throughout the offense. So, I mean, you have a phenomenal day for both wide receivers in Philly. It could have been a bigger one, though. And then going over to the Chicago Bears side of things, I mean, David Montgomery, I wasn't that excited about playing him because I didn't know how they were going to move the ball. I didn't know how they were going to stay competitive with Philadelphia. I'd say I'm honestly very impressed here with what Chicago was able to do on the offensive side of things. I mean, from the wide receiver standpoint, you're still starting nobody. Even if Chase Claypool comes back in, I mean, Justin Fields has 2 games this season with over 200 passing yards. Can't start any pass catcher. But hell, David Montgomery, if he's going to get almost every single touch out of this backfield, David Montgomery, 12 carries compared to Darrington Evans at 2. David Montgomery, 3 targets compared to Tristan Ebner at 1. I mean, Montgomery's a must-start running back at this point. I mean, if you have Darrington Evans seeing his role shrink and at the same time, the Bears actually being able to move the ball down the field. Now, going over to Pittsburgh, not too much to discuss. Trubisky looked okay. Trubisky had 22 passing attempts, 171 passing yards. You had Najee Harris with a decent day. Najee Harris goes out there as 86 rushing yards and the rushing touchdown. Honestly, I'm not that excited about Najee Harris with this performance. However, he played 45 out of 68 snaps. You had Jaylen Warren with a decent role where Jaylen Warren comes out. Jaylen Warren sees 23 snaps, 11 carries. He gets the rushing touchdown as well. That was inside the 10-yard line. So not great to see that Jaylen Warren can be a running back they're using at the goal line for Najee Harris owners. Deontay Johnson continues to dominate with targets. Actually, kind of the best day we've had from Deontay Johnson so far this season, where he gets his usual 10 targets. That's not out of the ordinary, but he actually catches them. And then going over to Carolina, we just want to continue to put that stamp on. You bench every single running back here. They're continuing to use a running back by committee, and you want nothing to do with the running back by committee for the Carolina Panthers. Okay, let's please put that out there. DJ Moore has himself a day. I know a lot of people were mad at us for ranking DJ Moore ahead of Chris Moore this week. Blah, blah, blah. Hell, we said DJ Moore in a good matchup against Pittsburgh would have been viable even if he had 0 receiving yards last week. He gets there with the 73 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown. Now, going over to the most surprising game of the week from an NFL standpoint, how the hell were the Chiefs and Texans this close? What happened? The spread on this game was 14.5 points. The spread on the Houston Texans game versus Dallas Cowboys 2 weeks ago, 17.5. Houston's actually keeping these games close. I would have never thought that. We thought this was going to be a blowout. I mean, great game environment for Jerick McKinnon, where Jerick McKinnon actually sees 48 snaps compared to Isaiah Pacheco at 27. You have Jerick McKinnon yet again dominating as a pass catcher with 8 receptions, 70 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. You have McKinnon with a rushing touchdown as well. Like McKinnon, a top 5 running back this week out of nowhere. I am so sorry because pretty much every time someone asked me on the live stream this morning if they should start Jerick McKinnon or running back X, I said running back X, and I was completely wrong, and I owe you a massive apology. And going over to the Houston side of things, they were okay. Not excited about anybody. Royce Freeman, 11 carries. I mean, Dare saw 8. I mean, Rex Burkhead getting a few targets out of the backfield. If you're looking at the snaps, no running back in this backfield saw more than 27. Like, not excited about any player for the Houston Texans. Dameon Pierce done for the year. You're still benching every single player in Houston. Now, going over to New Orleans, something that was very interesting is Taysom Hill's getting back in there. I mean, we were talking about Andy Dalton being an intriguing streaming quarterback because the Atlanta Falcons defense was extremely soft and the Saints should have been able to move the ball down the field. But our issue with this was, hell, what happens if Taysom Hill starts vulturing touchdowns? Taysom Hill gets himself a touchdown here. I mean, not too much to discuss. Chris Olave looks like someone we need to dramatically lower in our rankings. I was excited about Olave based on the matchup. He doesn't get there. Alvin Kamara sees more than 20 carries. Alvin Kamara gets a few receptions out of the backfield, not his usual receiving down role. I think the main takeaway in New Orleans is you just have to go through and you have to lower down Chris Olave. And going over to the Atlanta Falcons side of things, I mean, we were interested to see if Tyler Algier was going to take over as the running back one. We said to pick him up last week because the switch over to Desmond Ridder may have indicated that the Atlanta Falcons were done. They were saying, you know what, we're going to go through. We're going to be playing for 2023. And Tyler Algier had himself a good day, but the snaps underlying weren't great. While Tyler Algier did dominate with 139 rushing yards and the rushing touchdown, you had Cordell Patterson and Algier splitting this backfield 36 snaps to 37. Honestly, in the Atlanta Falcons backfield, if you have a pure 50-50 running back by committee, while I know both running backs scored this week, going forward, I'm not going to be excited about either or. And then with Desmond Ridder, the man had 26 pass attempts. Pretty much more than Mariota at any point this season. And he gives you 97 passing yards. I didn't know if it was going to be possible for Desmond Ridder to be a worse option in fantasy for these wide receivers than Marcus Mariota was. But yeah, no, Desmond Ridder was definitely worse. I mean, if we're looking at this, 3.7 yards per pass attempt. 3.7 yards per pass attempt. The average yards per rush attempt in this game for the Atlanta Falcons offense was 5.9. Laughably bad. Now going over to Dallas, I mean, with the Cowboys, put up a lot of points. You have a little going to Ezekiel Elliott. You have a little going to Tony Pollard. You have CeeDee Lamb with a great game. Noah Brown has some random touches. No real takeaways with the Dallas Cowboys offense here. But if we're going to be looking at Jacksonville, very similar to the apology I had to give out to Jarrett McKinnon owners when I said to bench Jarrett McKinnon this week, I owe you a massive apology if I told you to bench Zay Jones. I said you had to start Christian Kirk, you had to start Evan Ingram, you had to start Travis Etienne with how good this offense was looking. And Zay Jones is the man that comes away with 3 freaking touchdowns. We'll be talking about him a little more in depth in our waiver wire video. And going over to Denver, you are looking at an offense that had no Courtland Sutton, no Tim Patrick, no KJ Hamler, no Kendall Hinton. So 4 out of the top 5 wide receivers were down. So you would assume that a backup quarterback that's stepping into this situation that also has no Javonte, no Melvin Gordon, no Chase Edmonds, no Mike Boone. So 4 out of their top 5 running backs at this point were down. He had no shot, right? Oh, no. Brett Rippon comes in, has himself a day. I mean, obviously, he wasn't great himself, but he allows the Denver Broncos to come out with the win. He gives Jerry Jeudy the 8 targets. Jerry Jeudy has a respectable performance, but the main thing is Latavius Murray in a great matchup comes out here and wins people their matchup. I mean, Latavius Murray, 24 rush attempts, 130 rushing yards. Only 1 target in the backfield. We've seen him be a little bit more involved as a pass catcher, and he ran 14 routes in this game. Now, going over to Arizona, you have Colt McCoy going down. You have Trace McSorley coming in, and this is not good, ladies and gentlemen. I know he was good at Penn State, blah, blah, blah. I know he had a little song about him. He had a little Colt falling. No, you do not want to get excited about this. This is bad news to be on the 3rd string starting quarterback. I'd assume Colt McCoy probably misses next week. James Conner still someone you're starting based off the fact that, hell, he continues to get pretty much every single snap out of this backfield. He saw 58 out of 64 snaps this week. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins has his usual 11 targets in a very bad matchup. I think really the main takeaway is you can only start Hopkins and Conner going forward in Arizona if we're going to be on the 3rd string QB. And then in the New England Patriots offense, Ramondre Stevenson comes back with vengeance. I mean, we didn't know if Ramondre was going to play or not. Obviously, didn't start practicing until Friday. If you started Ramondre Stevenson, if you had the stones to roll the dice that he played, bravo. That's all I got to say. Ramondre Stevenson coming out 172 rushing yards. The rushing touchdown, essentially, I don't want to say won the Patriots game because obviously they lost it at the very end there, but did everything he could to win the Pats the game. And on the Raiders side of things, Jacobs continues to get every single touch out of the backfield. He sees 22 carries compared to Zamir White at 1. He gets a few targets out of the backfield. I mean, Darren Waller comes in, splits the tight end room with Foster Moreau. I mean, you actually have Foster with more snaps this week, but I'd assume Darren Waller continues to expand his role. Now, going over to the Tennessee Titans, Los Angeles Chargers game. Derrick Henry dominates in Tennessee. There's nothing to talk about. I mean, Derrick Henry leads the team in receiving with 59 yards, leads the team in rushing, with 104. Phenomenal Derrick Henry game. This team also has the 2 leading receivers as their tight ends. There's nothing to talk about in Tennessee. Going over to the Los Angeles Chargers, I mean, you thought this was a phenomenal matchup. At least I thought it was a great spot for Keenan Allen and Mike Williams when the Tennessee Titans had allowed the most points to opposing wide receivers so far this season. But you get 5 targets going over to Joshua Palmer. You get 6 targets going over to Gerald Everett. You get 3 targets going over to Donald Parham. You get 2 targets going to DeAndre Carter. You get 3 going to Austin Eckler. You get 2 going to Joshua Kelly. So this offense was very dispersed, more than I was expecting it to be. So going forward, we may have to move Keenan Allen as well as Mike Williams down just a little bit in our rankings. And then now going over to the Cincinnati Bengals and Buccaneers game, I will admit, I mean, I found myself rooting for Brady in this game. I don't know why. It doesn't sit right with me for everybody to root against Brady, for Brady to be bad on a bad team. But the Bucs blow the game in the second half with turnovers. I mean, if we're looking at the backfield split, Rachaad White had 11 carries. Leonard Fournette had 10. I mean, you had Leonard Fournette with 4 targets out of the backfield, Rachaad White with 2. So they essentially split the backfield damn near 50-50. You have Godwin, Evans taking those steps forward. What's very weird is Russell Gage leads the team in targets at 12. Russell Gage actually has the best day from a fantasy football standpoint. And then on the Cincinnati Bengals side of things, I mean, you had Joe Burrow with 4 passing touchdowns, only 200 passing yards. Mixon really is not looking good right now. I mean, it looks like they're splitting the backfield with Samaje Perine. They're not wanting to run the ball. You had a combined 18 carries for those 2 players, and you had 42 dropbacks for Joe Burrow. It's not a good game environment for Mixon. I think we were way too high on him, and Burrow did spread the ball out. So if you started Higgins, if you started Chase, started Boyd, you're sitting happy. But I think that's all we got for you. I mean, it's difficult to say that there are too many things changing at this point. I think the most important thing in fantasy football during the playoffs is just going to be hitting your waiver wire and making the correct start-sit decisions. So I'll be getting a waiver wire video out on Monday. We'll be getting our running back, wide receiver, quarterback, tight end rankings out this week as well. So make sure you go there for that. And if you want to, go check out these player props on Underdog Fantasy. Link in the description, comment section, promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, available in damn near every state. Let me know in the comment section how your week 15 went. And if you could go down there and drop a like, I truly would appreciate it. Thank you again. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day.